Welcome, welcome. I'm Mr. Smith with Swaggerized Performance Lab, talking to you about human performance and the critical components that you need to know from a mental, spiritual, physical, financial, and emotional and strategic level to maximize this athletic journey. Today, we're going to get right into it, talking about what you need to know before signing that NIL deal. The NIL contract red flags, what every parent and every athlete needs to know. You'll get this 8-point checklist and what you need to read first before signing that contract, because it's up to you to and understand the critical components of your contract, how you're going to receive the money, how you are going to maximize this opportunity that you, yourself, your parents, and everyone around you has committed to for a long period of time. And I believe that when athletes and parents and the whole team commits to this, and sometimes it's just an athlete, but when you commit to this journey, it is definitely worth, I think everyone deserves some reciprocity. So let's get right to it. First, let's just start with the money. And so here, you can look at the money. Let's start with the money. See, Division I NIL market and compensation report. This is right from the NCAA. This is happening as of today. So as you know, because of the realignment, you have the Power Four. So that realignment includes that Big Ten Conference, Southeastern Conference, Big 12, and Atlantic Coast Conference, where a lot of your Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-10, old school Pac-10 and Pac-12 schools have been realigned. And some of your WAC and your Mountain West schools have switched and have been part of that alignment. So it's the Power Four. So when you look at the starters and you look at the average annual salaries, you're anywhere from 150 to 2 million plus. I was able to get some insight in speaking to a Power Four coach as late as yesterday, and the $350,000 is reasonable for very reasonable for a starter, a defensive back. That's just starting. Now, if you have really got some good game film, you're getting your hands on the ball, you're showing elite level athleticism, you can see those numbers really escalate. And even your bench players are getting money, $10K to $50K a year. You're seeing your scout team athletes that are actually being paid. There's no longer even walk-ons for some programs. Everyone is being compensated. So it is an extremely competitive market, but this market pays. And you have the additional athletes, and you can see anywhere from $1,400 to $15,000. Now, I want to say these numbers are in addition to, you get your scholarship, you may even get your stipend. So that's for toothpaste, extra food, take care of just miscellaneous things. And then you have the NIL on top of it. So this is an incredible amount of income and capital that's being dispersed. And it's up to you, the athletes, to take advantage of this. You see basketball, and basketball has a higher base number and about the same annual number. And all of these numbers can even escalate when you're talking about people like, I say, a Shedeur Sanders or a highly marketable person like Bronny James. Their numbers and escalators were well above this. You have your Power Four men's basketball bench; they're receiving money. So, and these numbers can vary based on, again, the conference you're in and the organization you're with. Obviously, a player at a top tier organization, a role player can have a significant salary. You see a 4 or 5 star athlete still takes a contract at a team that stacks, a Kentucky, a Duke, and these numbers could be extremely higher just to be a role player. So players are no longer, you have very few spots now for walk-ons because you can get a highly competent player just to be on your scout team, which this provides an extreme opportunity for the families and the organizations, and I mean that for academies that are pouring into players, for your smaller programs, AAU basketball programs, some of your 7-on-7 programs. There's a lot of money being dispersed. And these are just your averages and baseline. The key to understand is that the depth of players receive smaller localized collective support and local endorsement, right? So they may not receive these endorsements at the smaller markets, but they're still able to generate money from NIL just for being on the team and supporting the entire infrastructure. So this is an extreme opportunity. You see the median averages from the Power Four, and these aren't the highs. You'll see some of these numbers because I know that some of these numbers are much larger. Just recently in the area, a softball player out of a Christian school in Sacramento, she received $250,000, I believe, just to go to a school, Purdue, and yeah, just softball, right? So, and not that softball is any less important, but when you think about basketball and football, folks that focus on those two sports may miss the opportunities in these other sports where the sporting industry has become one of the most influential and powerful industries in the entire world across the board. And everyone wants to be a part of it. And the reality is everyone wants to be a part of it, but there's still a small group that are actually highly competent to lead, to help develop, and there's still always that small percentage that can actually participate in the sport or teach those how to maximize the opportunity. So while it's highly competitive and there's a lot of money and it's highly visible, again, there's still only a few that can do it and only a few that can serve the market. So now I want to move on to some of your NIL, some of the things that you need to look out for before you sign that contract, how you need to decode that contract, how you need to read the fine print of that contract. What type of things and issues should you look for? And so here is your checklist. Let me bring that. And so now you should be able to see this on the screen. And let's first, NIL, this is your NIL contract audit sheet. Your NIL contract audit sheet. So before you sign this contract, you need to decode this contract. You need to take these 8 steps before you sign it. Walk through this with your parent, your coach, a very trusted individual that is not necessarily trying to eat from you or trying to use you, because sometimes when people just want a piece of the action, they don't have the same interest in understanding the fine print. You want someone, when you go over this, either if it's just yourself, which is why I'm giving you this information, you need someone that really cares about your future and is concerned. And so this is what we're doing now, is giving you this information. I'm giving you this information right here. And what you call is, you have the first area is called deliverable creep. And so this is a corporate trap. It's vague promotional information or work that is very vague and is not tightly scoped, meaning you need to nail down, where I have the plain language takeaway over here in the blue. You need to nail down exactly what you owe. How many posts, where, how many redos, if they don't use it, do you still get paid? This is basically understanding, hey, I need to know steps 1 through 7, 1, 2, 3. You know football, coach, just tell me what I need to do. You need to backpedal, you need to turn, you need to cover that post, get on the upside shoulder. You need to cover his upside shoulder, and you need to strip through the balls, through the arms, from the balls through the arms, right? Strip from the balls through the arms, right? So very specific steps. So now when you're being critiqued, the coach is going to say, okay, what did he do? Did he have the right leverage? Was he at the right distance when he lined up? What was the yards? Was he at 5? Was he at 7? Right? Where did he have a proper plant? So they're walking through the fundamentals of the coverage, just say for a defensive back. Did you do the fundamentals? This is the fundamentals. This is the fundamentals. Nail down exactly what you owe. What am I supposed to do? NIL contract owner, the person that issues your contract. How many posts? Where? How many redos? When should I show up? How long do I have to be there? Very clear. Define the exact count. Max revisions. Is there some type of way that they can change the requirements on you? Is it so vague that you really don't know what you're supposed to do? Really, it's how you perform, and even that's very vague, right? So be very clear on what you owe. Usage duration. This means grants rights into perpetuity worldwide, all media without ongoing compensation. So into perpetuity, when you think about a music contract, sometimes an artist's rights is owned forever, right? This is not what you want. You don't want someone to own you forever. This is an agreement. It's reciprocity. I'm going to live up to my end of the bargain for this certain time frame. This is what I plan to do on the field. This is what I plan to do off the field. This is how long our agreement is intact. Meaning your content can't be used forever for free. You need to put a stop date on it, like 6 months, then it's yours again. Or you can create specific content that they can use into perpetuity if that's your choice, right? And that may have a separate dollar amount for it. Or you have a dollar amount for that content that you create into perpetuity. Be very clear. Exclusivity scope. Broad, non-compete across fitness, apparel, and lifestyle, blocking future brand deals. So this is very broad, non-compete deals where they've locked you into, again, perpetuity. You can't wear anything different. You can't do anything different, but you don't really know, right? It could be, let's say in a sport, in cycling, you can never use X frame, this type of frame ever again. You can never ride a carbon frame. You don't even know that. That's somewhere deep in your contract, even though carbon frames is very standard and every manufacturer would have it. Or, you can't wear basketball shoes, right? So you can't wear anyone else's basketball shoes. You can only wear certain manufacturers' basketball shoes. Now, you can sign a contract and you can wear their cleats, but you can't wear their basketball shoes. So the deal clearly says that you can get out of the deal, but if you read fine print, it says that in lifestyle, you can't wear any other type of shoe. So they have you locked in through a contract in a way that you don't even know in the details of the contract. So don't sign away your whole future. Do not sign away. Be very specific. The contract should in clear terms, it should be very simple in a way that you understand it. Very clear to where you understand it and you actually can record a response in a way you can read that contract and record a response to say, okay, this is what I understand. And that could be documentation for how you interpret that contract. And they can agree to that too. So now, if there's any disagreement about the contract, you can talk about your contract and the interpretation of it. And if they agree to that, right, and you cover the entire contract, now that's a means of protecting yourself. All of the, this is more high level, but I'm just giving you some nuggets. Morality clauses, subjective terminations for anything deemed injurious to public reputation. So this again is vague. Morality clauses are vague. Like what is it? Is it if, let's say Jackson Dart, he commented or he seemed to support a political agenda. He was very supportive on a political side. With some sponsors or companies, that may be offensive to them, depending on who you're working with. Would that be deemed a morality clause because of who you're associated with? You don't know. I'm not saying that you don't. You have to be very clear on, okay, what is considered a morality clause? What do I have freedom of speech? Can I say what I want to say, even though a person may disagree with it, but can I say it? Can I support what I want to support? LeBron James, can he support? Can these different people, can they support who they want to support without having some type of morality clause saying it's deemed injurious to a public reputation? So you shouldn't lose your deal over someone's opinion. That is standard. If you read over here in the blue, only real legal trouble should end it, and both sides get it out. Parental liability, number 5, varies the indemnification, making parents financially liable for third-party suits. So this is mom or dad is signing to say, yes, this is okay, not agreeing to pay if something goes wrong later. So you want to have parent signs for consent only, cap total financial liabilities strictly to fees received. So this is your deal. You want to separate it, if you can, to protect everyone involved. Because your parents have jobs, have careers, even though resources between families can be shared and should be shared to some extent when you look at the commitment that some parents are making. How much is up for discussion, okay? How much? But there's many families that commit hundreds of thousands of dollars to their children's sports vision and goal. And so many families, as a result of that, they share in the spoils and the benefit of that. But you need to have very clear parental liability to where the parents are very separate from the contract. And if they are in the contract, it's clear so that a parent cannot be brought in as harming you from the contract. And if something happens, you are within the contract, you are not harming your parents as well. So injury exceptions, pay for play. trap where you cancel deals if it's injured or unable to compete on field. Sometimes missed games, different setbacks may happen, and getting hurt should not cancel your paycheck. This is a marketing deal, not a playing time deal. Okay? This is a marketing deal, not a playing time deal. So let's make that very clear. You need to separate injury from this contract. Being unable to compete is not part of it unless they have escalators in that contract for your performance. Escalators is something different. Okay? Academic study hall, vague. Must follow all team policy. Study halls gives an easy, cheap out to cancel. So you just want to make sure there's not anything, again, that's vague that they can tap you with and you didn't know. You showed up late at the study hall 2 times, 3 times over a semester, and all of a sudden, because things aren't particularly going as planned, they use that to cancel your NIL deal. So you need to read the fine print. Only a real grade problem is something that should be problematic. In the end, not showing up 2 minutes late to study hall is not a reason to cancel your NIL deal. If that's not in the agreement, right? If that's not something that you agree to. You need to understand whatever you sign, you need to understand clearly what you agreed to. Compliance and rules. So silent on athletic board rules, risk athlete eligibility or conflicts. If a school or league rules conflicts with the contract should adjust. You shouldn't lose money over it, right? Insert a savings clause. What you can do is insert a savings clause that auto-modifies conflicting terms without forfeiture of earned fees. So meaning your contract can modify to adjust with any school or league regulatory changes. So if contract's one way and it meets school and regulatory guidelines, but then all of a sudden these school and regulatory guidelines change midstream, your contract is not canceled. It has a clause within it that allows it to adjust to meet any regulatory changes that have been made outside of the realms of your contract. This is Mr. Smith with the Art and Nuance of Sport. My hope and expectation is that I gave you value. Please read the fine print and understand your contracts. This is a key. Do not sign your NIL deal yet until you go through these 8 steps and you understand this NIL contract audit sheet. I'll have this in the download so you can download it. This is the NIL contract audit sheet from Swaggerize, the Art and Nuance of Sport podcast. I'm Mr. Smith, and I am out.